Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome inside the latest edition of Across the Cavs on Tuesday, December 19th. The year is 2023. 59 years ago today, a fellow by the name of Winston graced the earth for the first time. Last name Garland. You know him as the Papa, as most call him, father of Cavs all-star point guard Darius Garland. He played 7 years in the league, couple of strong seasons, averaged 9 points, 3 boards, 5 dimes a game. Where does Darius get his yo-yo handles? Comes from Pops. Happy 59th to Winston. And an NBA champion in the land, retired in the land after being an all-star during his first tenure, averaged 13 a game for his career, dropped a very random but gorgeous 50-burger in Minnesota. His name is Mo Williams, the coach now of Jackson State. Formerly, I believe it was Alabama State. Happy 40th to him. Introducing today's guest, Tony Pesta. Needs no introduction. If you're part of Cavs Twitter, you know who this man is. If you enjoy Cavs and you enjoy breakdowns, you've seen his highlights. A pleasure, Tony, as we get ready for Cavs Jazz, to bring you on today and we can get our conversation going.
Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity. I'm excited to talk some Cavs Jazz, maybe start the Sexton Wars all over again.
We are absolutely starting the Sexton Wars, and I've already got some pre-scheduled stuff that's going to go out in the morning that may ruffle feathers. It may just be all right. Shout out to Collin and Don, but he's Tony Pesta, Zach Weiss. This is Across the Cavs on Network 216. We are sitting here at 10:17 p.m. Eastern time on Tuesday. This stuff's going to go out at 8 a.m. So, Tony, obviously we talk Jazz, Cavs. These are two teams. I just call them the Cleveland Jazzaliers or the Utah Cavs, because they're making trades every season. But with their up and down start, what are your thoughts on this year's Jazz team so far?
Yeah, I will be honest. I don't watch them too closely just because I think they're a team they're early in their timeline. They're still figuring a lot of things out. They're one of the teams that at the deadline this year, you're sure is probably going to make a move. They're going to shake things up a little bit. But, I mean, with so many former Cavaliers, it's hard not to pay attention to them. I've really enjoyed – I know we're going to get into Collin Sexton and all of the different players there, but I've enjoyed seeing Collin ball out. Seeing Lowry take that leap was awesome. As much as I wish that he could have done it in Cleveland, I'm still overall happy with the trade, and I just like to see former Cavaliers thrive. So, the Jazz, they're a fun young team. As I said, they still got some things to figure out, but anytime you have those young teams with so many promising and interesting players, it's always fun to keep an eye on that and just see what direction their rebuild goes in. And of course, they have like all of our picks for the next 6 years. So,
they're certainly ingrained, and I doubt it, but I also wouldn't be shocked if there was some kind of trade done between them at the deadline, because there's so many guys on the Jazz that are difference makers at one level, one way or another. And if you think about only getting one first for Bojan, I believe, when they traded him to Detroit, anything can happen. They got a roster full of guys that can make a difference on a basketball court. So, right, you never know. I don't expect it to happen, but if I get notification that says somebody, whether it's from the end of the bench or the rotation, is coming to Cleveland, I would not be that shocked.
Same, yeah.
And currently 4 Utah Jazz players that were once Cavs. Ochai Agbaji, yes, he counts the same way Andrew Wiggins counts, along with Collin Sexton, Lauri Markkanen, and Jordan Clarkson, who we will not see. Let's talk Collin, Tony. We were talking right before we came on. Jazz are 8-2 when Collin has a positive plus-minus. The only really outlier, a 3-point loss to the Suns where he was where they lost by 3, he was a plus 12. If you look at these last couple of games, he's had 2 of his 3 best outputs of the year, a plus 17 against Portland, a plus 18. This was a huge one against Brooklyn where he shot 12 for 13 at the line, put up 6 assists. It's the 7th time this season he's had at least 6 assists. He's had 2 or 3 turnovers in all those games, but that's still 3 assists per turnover, which you look at his assist numbers in Cleveland was not his role. It's been solid. And Tony, while they've had so many guys out, I've really, and I don't want to say impressed because we know he's capable, but I think that is the word to use, because Collin kind of went from warming the bench, getting 10, 15 minutes a night, to where Will Hardy can trust him over Chris Dunn, who's established himself over there as not only the starting point guard, but as the team's top scorer. And it's been wonderful to follow.
Yeah, I've definitely been impressed with Collin. Obviously coming off of that injury a few years ago and then just never really finding his role in Utah to start off. It's so nice to see him kind of get back to the Collin Sexton who we know and love. There's always going to be the concerns about his height, the 3-level scoring, but during this stretch when he's been starting, he's averaging 27 points and 5 assists. Now, is that something he's going to keep up for the entire season? I wouldn't bet on it, but the thing that's impressed me during that stretch, obviously, is the assists. Seeing him be more of a playmaker, kind of when he was in Cleveland, especially those first 2 years, he would play with tunnel vision at times. It seems like now he's starting to get a feel for the game, make more plays that are within the flow of the offense rather than forcing things. Even his shot selection, even the last 2 years in Cleveland, was really starting to improve. He's always had that mid-range shot, that floater, great at getting to the rim despite his lack of size. He's super quick. That's the one thing that really stood out to me just watching his highlights with the Jazz over these last few games is how great he is at getting downhill, using those ankles, attacking and pick and roll. And he's attempting 6 3-pointers per game during this stretch, which if Collin's ever going to make any sort of leap, you need to see him kind of expand that range and become a 3-level scorer. He's always been a efficient 3-point shooter, but he was never a volume shooter. If he can add to that, which it looks like maybe he has, his jump shot looks a lot quicker than when it was in Cleveland. If he can start doing that, he's going to be a really, really fun player to watch. It's funny. The Jordan Clarkson comparison was the one that was always drawn for Collin. And it seems like he could end up being the heir to Jordan Clarkson's throne over in Utah because whether he's starting or in the 6-man role, it just seems like he's going to fit right in and give you a very similar impact just in terms of being that volume scorer who can maybe add a little bit of playmaking to his bag now.
And I think it's really important, Tony, as well. You look at how he's been playing on this stretch. Because after last season, I believe he played 48 games. They did trade Mike Conley, which opened up the door for Collin to be a regular starter. And what happens with a lot of players, they'll spend their good chunk of the start of their career, 3, 4, 5 seasons with one team after being drafted. You play very well, but all of a sudden a chance arises and you get someone big. And it seems, okay, maybe they're a one-team guy. All of a sudden they're on a second team and you're getting traded a second time and a third time. So I think it's vital right now, Tony, because even 3-4 weeks ago, there might have been discourse that he could get traded again because he really does fit a lot of teams, but maybe he wasn't the answer in Utah because Will Hardy wasn't showcasing him. So I think it's critical for his career, this recent stretch, because he's got 2 years left on his deal after this season in Utah. And if he can make it through this contract, if he gets through the season, I think he can and he will. I think it's vital for him to be on the same team in a system he can learn because everything changes as you keep moving. And 3 teams in 3 seasons, I think could have changed his ceiling just because he's still young. He has dealt with significant injuries over the last couple of seasons. So massive for his growth and potential.
Yeah, and one thing I want to add, just focusing on this upcoming game with the Cavs, one thing that I'm very interested to see with Sexton is just how he attacks the way we play defense, our drop coverage. I think he really, as I mentioned, that mid-range game, that floater, getting downhill is really where he thrives. And the Cavs play a lot of drop. So I'm interested to see how they're going to handle the point of attack. I really want to see who draws that matchup. Is it going to be Donovan guarding him? Will they throw a Quoro on him? Will it be Strus? That's something I'm very interested to see. And also just I want to see how Collin comes out and plays against this Cavs team. He seems like the type of guy who takes things personal, even if there's not necessarily any bad blood between the Cavs and him. I just think this is a matchup where he's going to be a little more motivated than usual. He's going to maybe have something to prove. And I feel like Collin, in the limited chances we got to see, I feel like he elevates his games in those. He elevated his game in those nights. So I'm excited to see what he brings to the table and if he has a little extra juice for us.
And then kind of pivoting away from Collin, this is a Jazz team that I don't even know if the players know when they wake up in the morning on game day who's starting because they've had 12 different guys record a start. What's crazy is we've had Walker Kessler start 11 games, come off the bench. He did start last night. They brought John Collins off the bench last night. I need to confirm this for myself to check this. It's the first time for Collins since the 2018-19 season. This was the year before his drug suspension, his second year in the league. Actually, sorry, he came off the bench once 2 years ago, I think coming off injury. But now they're giving Taylor Hendricks minutes. I honestly couldn't tell you what the starting lineup is. I think yesterday was Collin, Oshai, Fontecchio, Lowry, and Kessler. So while they're only 10 and 17, I think they present a lot of matchup difficulties to teams that aren't locked in defensively because you don't know who's going to play where. They spread the ball well. Obviously, they're a much better home team than road team, so that'll play to Cleveland's advantage being at home for another game where they've won the last two. But I want to talk about Kessler here, Tony, because Jared Allen has been given a lot of minutes recently. 2 of the last 3 games, he's had significant foul trouble. Unfortunately, it comes with the territory of being really the only dominant big as Evan has gone down. Now, give kudos to Tristan, although he's not getting enough minutes as well, we could argue. So how do you think the Cavs, if they get into a Jared Allen foul situation, how can they handle Kessler and then maybe even Collins and Lowry, this big roster with the small assortment of guys they'll probably be rolling out again with Isaac and Dean manning the wings?
Yeah, that's got to be one of the main concerns here for the Cavs. Obviously, losing Evan Mobley hurts in many different ways, but one of the things that we're really seeing is that Jared Allen, and of course Tristan has helped, but it's really just Jared and Tristan out there really bunkering down in the front court. And the Jazz are not a team you want to run into, and that's a problem you're dealing with at the moment. They're one of the best rebounding teams in the NBA. They have a bunch of big men who can really punish you down low. Kessler is going to make it difficult for the Cavs to get into the paint, something that they've struggled on offense throughout this year. So, and as you mentioned too, on top of their size and the way they play big down low, they're also one of the best three-point shooting teams in the NBA. They're 10th in three-pointers right now. That's an area of the floor the Cavs have struggled to defend. Even when they were the best defense in the league, covering the perimeter was always one of those glaring concerns that fans had, which was maybe a little exaggerated by some of Cavs Twitter, but it's still one of their, weaknesses, and it's something that the Jazz could exploit. And it's something that for the Cavs, they're trying to play this new brand of basketball where they play a little faster, they shoot more three-pointers. They're going to have to do that even more with these injuries that have happened with Evan Mobley out of the lineup. And so when you're going small against a team like the Jazz, obviously you need a team effort to get on the glass and to not get just bombarded there, but you also don't want to get into a situation where the Jazz are out shooting you at their game too. I think with all these injuries, the Cavs are going to have to find what their identity is going to be for their next, month, 2 months of this schedule here. And the Jazz are a team that's really going to put them in a unique position that Houston and Atlanta couldn't really do to them. Even though the Jazz are a worse team than those two teams, I think, especially if Jared Allen gets into foul trouble, the Jazz are a team that can really kind of exploit some of their current weaknesses.
Fun fact, actually, the Hawks only one more win than Utah, that's how weird a year it's been for Atlanta. Yeah, certainly. Last night's game, they just barely found a way. Truthfully, I'm happy that Donovan and Allen didn't foul out because they both played down the stretch with 5 fouls, the whole overtime with 5 fouls. I want to say Allen might have picked up his 5th in the 3rd and not in the 4th. So that was tough.
Yeah,
and then Shangoon was playing with 5. And in my head, and you know how we can be as a collective and as basketball fans, Tony, we always want to, in our head, we blame the ref, but we may not want to make those public opinions because it's kind of a fan bias where you think you should get these calls, but then you watch the replay and like, okay, yeah, I knew I was justified in that. So every time Shangoon had the ball at the top, I was thinking, all right, is he going to drive it Allen now? Is this going to be the time where one of these fan bases lets out a collective, holy crap, they're gone? And I know we want to talk about today, but I think, or tomorrow rather, but I think the way they finished overtime last night could give them a nice first quarter advantage, whereas Utah was able to, they had a smooth win. They won by 17. They really handled the Nets down the stretch, a very tough team to stop, even though they've been very mediocre because of all the weapons they have. And we'll see them in Paris in a few weeks, which will be a lot of fun, I'm sure, for the Cavs to get that opportunity. Stinks they won't have 2 of their 3 all-star candidate players. But nonetheless, I think it's important, Tony, winning that in overtime in the way they did to take positivity in, because now they're coming in confident. Okoro's coming in off 3 assists in the 5-minute session. Donovan was making his shots, and now all of a sudden you might be seeing Sam Merrill in the game a little earlier off the best scoring night of his career in the NBA.
Yeah, we can only hope we'll get more Sam Merrill minutes now. I know my podcast co-host Jackson Flickinger, shout out to him. He's been on the Sam Merrill bandwagon since it started. So he's having the time of his life watching the Sam Merrill agenda come to fruition. But in all seriousness, when the news broke that Garland was going to miss a month, Mobley was going to be out for about 2 months, Cavs Twitter, understandably, was very upset. It was doomsday. The sky was falling. And thankfully, the Cavs felt otherwise because they came out against Atlanta on fire, really blew them out of the water. Then they come in against Houston. It's a little bit more of a back and forth game, but they grind it out, get that dub in overtime. And if you look at this team, you wouldn't realize how close they are to the edge. It feels like it really feels like they're teetering over the edge of a cliff. And yet, in those last 2 games, at least, we know things can change very quickly with this team. But in those last 2 games, it's about as reassuring as you could feel for where they are with all these injuries. Donovan has come out just electric, on fire, doing what the team needs him to do. 13 assists, career high against Atlanta. Against Houston, hit some big shots. And then in the Houston game, you just get other guys stepping up, right? Like Sam Merrill coming in and having a career high night. Those are the things that you're going to need to see if the Cavs are going to keep their head above water moving forward. It's going to be a cycling rotation of guys stepping up, right? You're going to need Dean Wade to have a big game. Sam Merrill, Max Strus needs to get going from downtown. George Niang, hopefully, will start hitting some shots. And of course, Okoro, who is back in the starting lineup. And I'm really, in a weird way, I'm not at all happy about these injuries, but for Okoro, it's been a blessing in disguise because now he's getting those opportunities to get the ball back in his hands and kind of get those developmental reps that he otherwise would not have gotten if he was in his normal spot in the rotation.
Yeah, definitely to that. And on Niang, these are his last 4 games coming into last night. 0 points on 0 for 10 with 4 rebounds, loss. 3 points, 2 rebounds, 1 for 1 from the field, loss. 4 points, 1 of 4, 2 rebounds, loss. 0 points against Atlanta for the second time in 4 games, 3 boards, 2 assists. 15 minutes, his lowest in the last 10, win, thankfully. And then last night took 10 shots. And now I do have to ask, I do have a couple points I want to make here about Sam Merrill as well. Shout out to Jackson, of course. What do you think about the nickname Bang Bang Niang when he makes threes?
I was a big fan of it coming into the season. Now, I mean, he has been shooting the ball a lot better since the start of the year, but it still feels like, for a nickname like that, you really got to earn it. That's and I don't know if he's quite there. Like, they gave him the G-Wagon nickname a little too soon.
They did.
I think minivan. He's still a minivan for now. He needs to play a little better for a prolonged stretch before we can upgrade him to G-Wagon. Bang Bang Niang is just fun, though. I just like saying Bang Bang every time he makes one, so hopefully he can live up to that name a little more throughout the year as he finds some consistency.
Wait, so you're saying that's actually a public nickname? I thought I invented that one. That's a common.
Did you?
I thought
I don't know where I saw it first, honestly. Maybe it was you.
I'm just curious. I have to do a quick X check here to Twitter. We're calling it Twitter. It's not. It could be either.
Yeah, no. We still call it Twitter. Maybe you were, honestly. I don't know where I saw it first. I saw people saying it.
Okay, wait. All right. Cavs Jack did it. Okay, wait. All right, wait a minute. Now I just need to see when I did it the first time because I'm seeing December 12th as the most recent. I did it on Halloween. He made Evan Mobley kicked it to him. He made a 3. It was against the Knicks, and then he's just letting it fly with little Mikal Bridges. Okay, so I think it was me because I'm looking at. Oh, wait a minute. Oh crap. Okay, wait a minute. I have to give credit, and then we're gonna get back to our conversation. Username at Milo Molina _ said, "Can't wait to yell bang bang George Niang, October 24th." I never said it. It was under one of my posts. I guess. Okay. It was a bold take for the season. And
copyright that.
I need to take it. I mean, I'll give my credit, but I had not seen his reply because I will close this mini thread with, and I'm sure you do the same. If you have a post that's getting a certain number, you want to scroll through your feed, you'll mute the notifications and then manually check. I never saw the notification for someone saying that.
Fair enough.
I will take it. And I will close this loop with Sam Merrill by saying this, and then we'll preview the game in one other key matchup. My favorite Sam Merrill nugget is how he got to the Cavs, because coming into last season, Matthew Dellavedova, who, as many know, is my favorite player. He has been since he set foot in Cleveland. Yes, he usurped LeBron. He usurped Kyrie at one time was up there, but everything that's happened with Kyrie has dropped him far down the list. I'll still post Kyrie. I'm happy for his highs in the NBA. But Sam Merrill was vying for a roster spot with the Kings. He finished his rookie season with the Bucks as a champ, barely saw the court next year after getting traded for Grayson Allen to Memphis. So he's just trying to fight for his NBA life. He's 25 years old going into the season, 26 years old, and he's going for a raw spot on the Kings. And who's he competing with but a certain Matthew Dellavedova, trying to get back in the league after spending a year in the NBL after leaving Cleveland. And last preseason game, everything happens, and I was hoping Delly would get in because I needed one more jersey to get a starting 5 of 5 Dellavedova jerseys for myself. 2 Cavs, Bucks, Australia, and then Kings. And wouldn't you know, Delly makes the roster. Merrill gets cut. Where does Merrill go, Tony Pesta? He goes to the Cleveland Charge. And then we get past the trade deadline, roster spots open. Who do the Cavs sign to a deal? But after a couple of 10 days, Mr. Sam Merrill, who didn't make much of an impact last season outside the end, comes up now, actually wins a game against another team with playoff aspirations, housing Donovan Mitchell's biggest enemy, who tried to end him last season with an injury. So that is poetic justice between 2 players that are just beloved.
Fantastic story. The Sam Merrill agenda, it's inevitable.
Yes, it is. It is very much inevitable. And if there was an MCU timeline with Sam Merrill somehow being thrown in, I think it might save amidst what's been happening over these last couple of days, weeks, months through it all. So maybe I'll throw a Sam Merrill cameo, have a little scene. And so many heroes have come from Cleveland, right? Superman originated in Cleveland, Ohio. Why can't Merrill Man, right? Why not? Spitball.
Why not?
Okay, we do have a game tomorrow. It is the Cavs and the Jazz. So getting back to it, 1 or 2 more points we want to make here, Tony. So what to you, and obviously the Cavs will be favored coming in. That goes without saying. We'll see what that line is right before tip because we'll see who's playing and who's not. What is the key matchup that will indicate which team will have the better edge by winning this matchup?
You know, I want to go Donovan Mitchell, but I think it's going to be Jared Allen and Kessler. I think Jared Allen, we mentioned the foul trouble. It's really out of character for him to be in foul trouble the way he has been over the last week and a half. He had the Orlando game where he fouled out in like 15 minutes. And then, of course, the most recent game, he was in foul trouble very early on. He couldn't stay on the floor. With all the injuries, Jared Allen is so unbelievably important to this team. He is their defensive anchor. He's really important on the offensive end. I don't think he gets enough credit for it because he isn't as flashy and most of his points are just kind of spoon-fed to him. But you need him to put pressure on the rim. You need him to set screens. He's one of the only people on the roster who actually set a solid screen. And so when he's not out there, not only does it tank your defense, but it also makes generating offense really difficult. That's when I think you start to see Donovan Mitchell in particular rely on iso ball a lot more. You start seeing the Cavs just neglect to get into the paint at all, because they don't have their giant 7-footer down there finishing all these super easy baskets around the rim. And even if Allen's only averaging 14 or 15 points a night, it's like the easiest 14 and 15 you get in that game. And those throughout the course of 48 minutes, those easy buckets really do help keep you afloat. And so he needs to bring it tonight or tomorrow night. Actually, he needs to bring it tomorrow. We need to see the Jared Allen, who's a borderline all-star. We need to see him attack the glass. We need to see him stay on the floor, not get into foul trouble, and just do what he does best, because I think the Cavs really, really are going to be relying on him a lot with Evan Mobley out. And hopefully it's a return to form for Allen.
Really nice points. I do think it's important for him to avoid foul trouble, see what he can do against Kessler. Can he get some easy ones? Because Walker's been hurt this year. He's missed 8 games. So he's still kind of getting back into his regular form. The rotations have been all over the place, and yet they seem like a team that could actually still win 4 or 5 in a row. They're 3-1 in their last 4, beating both New York teams, which you look at this season and the Knicks, very impressive. You think about the Nets, even with the injuries they have with Cam Thomas, Mikal Bridges, Nick Claxton, Cam Johnson, Dinwiddie, it's a very formidable starting 5. They can all, 4 of them can get hot at any time, and the 5th was 4th or 5th in the DPOY race last season. For me, the key matchup, actually, you might think this is interesting, but I'm going to actually go with the wings and be Lauri Markkanen versus Dean and Isaac. Because with the way Collin's been playing, and we know what Kessler can do, Lauri now being healthy, being an all-star starter last season, he's not as good as he was last year, at least statistically speaking, but he can go absolutely crazy. So I think it's very important to first part of the first part of the third, and then I'd say obviously closing the game. How Okoro, I do believe it would be Okoro if Dean's not in the game getting that assignment. I think he can handle the size differential, especially playing with him for a season already. That's going to be what determines it. Because if you can make someone else make the big shots, because Clarkson loves taking big shots. He's not around. He's not available. Collins had his moments. You know what Collins can do, and then Simone Fontecchio can't be ignored, especially after the way he performed over the summer, playing for Italy, who made a really nice run in the tournament. But with that said, if you can keep him somewhat in check, I think you have a good chance. If you can stop him from having any dominant stretch of 2 or 3 straight possessions with buckets, he has a quick release. He has a high release, being a 7-footer. So just stay on him, make him work. It'll probably be Dean in the beginning that guards him, and I absolutely trust him for 20 minutes to do that. Win that matchup, I think you'll have a good chance. And my second factor is if, however, Tony, and tell me what you think, and we'll make a prediction and sign off. I think the team that makes more threes wins, whether it's Cleveland or Utah. Yes, the Cavs have won 2 straight, but Utah between Horton Tucker, we haven't even mentioned, he's been playing really good ball. Abaji's shooting numbers have been up. But between Horton Tucker, Olynyk, Collins, Fontecchio, Sexton, Markkanen, they got shooters all over the place. So we know the Cavs just hit 18 against Houston, but if you're giving up 16, 17, 18 threes, and you're having one of those days you're 7 of 40 or 9 of 35, I don't think you'll be able to make up the disparity with the rest of the game being played between the weeds.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Especially with Donovan Mitchell being your lead creator, not only is he a high volume 3-point shooter, but that's just kind of the way he play makes. He's much more drive and kick than Darius Garland. So this Cavs team is getting up a lot of 3-pointers. The Jazz already like to shoot threes. Markkanen is a dead-eye 3-point shooter. Cavs are really going to have to get out there. They're going to have their hands full trying to defend him. The size is going to be a problem for them, but I do think there's a solid chance this game turns into a shootout. And like you said, I think I agree 100%. It might just come down to who's having the better shooting night, because the Cavs have been trying to make this their style. They've had some really great nights where they're on fire, and they've had other nights where nothing's going in. And without Mobley or Garland out there, it's a lot harder for them to find other options to score. So yeah, it might be a shootout.
Absolutely will. So 2 questions, then we'll wrap this up. First is what's one bold take for tomorrow night's matchup, Tony, that you got?
Oh man, bold take. I'll ride the Sam Merrill train and Dean Wade. I think Dean Wade and Sam Merrill could have some big games. Dean Wade's confidence has been building. Again, to the Donovan Mitchell point, I think having a guy who really looks to drive and kick helps both of those players out a lot. So yeah, I'll jump on the bandwagon. I'll say we're going to get another big Sam Merrill or Dean Wade game. One of those two.
Do you have a point prediction to kind of lay a foundation so you could brag if it hits?
I'll put the over-under for Sam Merrill at 12.5.
All right,
I think that's fair. That would be a big game for him.
I'll take that. And this is going to depend on minutes, because I'm very surprised at how his minutes have been down. This is on Max Strus. I'm going to say that he goes over 20 tomorrow. And it's big because if we just quickly look at his last 10 games, he's only done that once. It was against Detroit. He's had single digits on 3 occasions. He's hit at least 1 3 and 9 of 10. But I'm going to put 20. I wanted to say 25, but we got to stay modest here. I got to keep it honest. But I want to see it. I just got the Strus jersey. It just showed up yesterday, ready to rock it soon, especially my next game. But
feels like he's due for a big game.
He's definitely due for a big game, and I feel like he'll rise to the occasion. Because Utah, something's going to happen. The way their rotations are, they always have. The reason they're 10 and 17, it's not their lack of talent or options. It's just the way that they have breakdowns. Other teams, best ball handlers can really get them out of position. I think Donovan's going to do that. I think it's going to lead to Strus having his 20-point game, which I think will feature 5 to 6 threes, which everybody will love. It'll get his percentages back up, and we'll restart the agenda of Strus to the 3-point shootout along with every Cav. We need Strus, we need Merrill, we need Niang, we need Mitchell, and we need Garland at the 3-point shootout. But I would settle for Strus. If he can get to 38, 39, 40%, I think if the Cavs can win enough games, can still score an invite, which I had preseason as a bold take, right? People want to see him. He was good in Miami.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he's still leading the NBA in catch and shoot 3-pointers. So I feel like he deserves it, but he definitely needs a couple big games here to really put the national media attention to get that for him. Because right now, I'm not sure how many people are recognizing the season that Strus is having, because he's been everything as advertised and more.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, who wins the game tomorrow, Tony? It's the Cavs hosting the Jazz, 7 p.m. at the Rock, where the Cavs have won their last 2.
I'm gonna be a real shocker here and say the Cavs. As Cleveland Cavaliers #1 optimist, I'm gonna have to pick the Cavs just to stay on brand. But I do think it's a very winnable game for them. And in this upcoming stretch that could prove to be very difficult, they need to take advantage and win these winnable games, especially at home.
In first end of a back-to-back, you lose the first one, you certainly open yourself up to a potential PR nightmare, because you lose a game, everyone talks. You win a game, no one talks. You have to deal. You have to deal. That's just what it is in the NBA when you're a team that isn't where you want to be, injuries or not. And that's what the announcers will tell you when you watch the game tomorrow. They're going to say the same thing. Brad Daugherty or AC, whoever's on, nobody feels sorry for you. They just want to make it worse for you as an opponent. Yep. So I'm excited to finally see Collin play Cleveland. I hope we get a tribute, even if it's short. I don't think we need a 60-second, 90-second tribute. Even if it's 30 seconds, quick little first media of the game, throw it up. He absolutely deserves it. He was a part of trying to establish a post-LeBron culture. And while he might not have succeeded with getting the Cavs the wins, he certainly had his moments against the big three of Brooklyn, ruined everything, and they never won anything. We can thank Collin for that. And I think that alone, even if it's short, something. His number won't be in the rafters, especially because he also shared it with Mo, with Kyrie. And now Ty Jerome hopefully gets healthy at some point, wears it. So that number's being passed around like the salt at the dinner table. So, nonetheless, I'm also going to go with the Cavs. It's going to be fun. It's going to be nerve-wracking, and it's not going to be a game I miss lies. I'll be rewatching the game later, so I will read everyone's reactions when it's concluded. But I'm excited. I really hope that Collin has a good game, but isn't good enough to help beat the Cavs. I hope it's when they're down.
Well said.
I hope they're down 15 and he goes on like a little 8-0 run, and then the Cavs put him away. So Collin has his moment. Cavs have their moment.
Everybody's happy.
Everybody's happy. But as we now say goodbye, the Cavs play the Jazz. They'll have the Pelicans as well to come this weekend, finishing out the schedule. They have New Orleans, and then they're at Chicago Saturday night for their last game before the holidays. So Tony Pesta, it's very simple how we can find you, but tell the listeners and the video viewers where we can find Tony Pesta's great work, because it is good work. If you don't follow him now, a 5-minute scroll through his Twitter feed will show you that he'll break down tape. He'll really get into the nooks and crannies of the good and the bad, and he will create nice discussions, both positive and negative, so that people can really lay their opinions out in his thread. How do we find you?
Well, first off, thank you. I truly do appreciate the opportunity to come on and talk some Cavs. It's a blast. And yeah, I mean, if you want to find any of my content, I would say just go to my Twitter at Tony_Pesta. There you'll find I do live tweets throughout the games. I'll go on random rants whenever my mind just decides to get fixated on the Cavs. I'll tweet out stats, and you can find the links to I run socials for Fear the Sword. I write for both Fear the Sword and Write Down Euclid. And I have a YouTube channel with a podcast like everyone else that I host with Jackson Flickinger called The Junkyard Pod. It's on my YouTube channel. Again, just Tony Pesta. You can find all that, video breakdowns, everything your heart desires. And again, thank you. I really do appreciate this opportunity to come on.
Absolutely. He's Tony Pesta. Zach West with you as always. We'll see you real soon across the Cavs on Network 216.